Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crush Fan Podcast. I am Cantharion, aka Chris Crush Jacob, because Chris Jacob make the ball jump, jump. I have with me here today some fantastic former and current Kingpins. Some may call him the father of the Kingpins, one of the founding fathers, Kingpins royalty. Many ways you could describe it. We got Bauer, aka Anthony Bauer. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
So great. So great. Excited to jump into it. And, of course, we have a current Kingpin. We have with us the fantastic catcher, Alex Frank, a.k.a. Hordle. How are you doing?
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't connect on the last one. We got you in this one. That's what counts. We're going to keep the Crush fam story going. So, I like to start off with a little bit of background. And just to give you guys the cliff notes on my background, I'm a born and raised Cubs fan. My grandparents got me into it. They forced it upon me. I had no choice. It was part of my culture. And yeah, I love players like growing up. Mark Grace was like number one for me. Rhino, of course, the legend, and then got to see guys like Derek Lee and current favorite Anthony Rizzo. I love first base. I love me some first base. So let's go with the order that I see you guys in the chat, and we'll start with Bao. Tell us a little bit about your baseball background.
So I didn't actually start watching baseball until around probably '04, '05, because I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I actually started out as a Sox fan because they were obviously really good at that time. I can't believe I'm saying that in public. Now I'm a diehard Cubs fan. My dad waited for me to make the switch because he's a Cubs fan. So I've been watching them ever since. Favorite player probably all time. That's a really good question. I mean, I can't go wrong with my main man Javier Baez right now. But he's pretty much the most exciting player in baseball to watch. But yeah, grew up playing baseball, played it through high school and everything. So baseball has been a huge part of my life ever since I started watching it in 2004, 2005.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love the perspective. So I think in our last podcast as well, we had a couple other Cubs fans, and I was talking about the crosstown rivalry and how, I don't know, for me as a Cubs fan, a lot of my friends growing up were Sox fans, and we weren't really super competitive. Like, we would get competitive for the games themselves, and that was about it. Then we didn't care about each other's fandom, really.
Oh no, I like especially right now. Like the Sox are really really exciting to watch. So like I'm gonna root for them when they start doing well. Like that whole thing is so media driven. Like nobody really cares about that. I find that most Cubs fans don't really care. I mean, it's fun to go, yeah, White Sox suck when we're playing them, but I mean, if they're doing well, they're still Chicago, so I'm gonna root for them.
Yeah, I think that's the right mindset to have. And like I said, that's the same way I feel about it. Like, it's, when they had their success in was it 2005?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was rooting for them. I was like, heck yeah, go Chicago. This is great. I wish my team was there, but you guys have my support. So yeah, and it's an exciting time again to be a White Sox fan. So
Yeah, they're gonna be really fun to watch.
right. Yeah, I wish I could say the same about the Cubs. But to your point, Javi. I mean, Javi's always fun to watch. He always has like one or two plays every year that are just either so insanely athletic or just so insanely absurd that they just end up in highlight reels for the whole season. It's great.
So he's one of the few people that I think was actually hurt by having little to no fans at games because
Yeah.
he's such a showman that feeds off the crowd. And when he doesn't have that, I feel like he's not as explosive.
Yeah, I think the other part of it too was the limiting of video in the dugout.
Yep.
Was I think Chris Bryant especially. I think he's a big tinkerer, and I think he's like a really smart baseball player. So he, like when he sits down, I think he was going straight to that tablet and trying to check and see how he could change his swing or look for pitches. And so now these they didn't really have time to adjust to that. Like with the truncated spring training, like those guys are talented and they couldn't find their groove in this new world. So I think the offense bounces back next season for sure. I still don't know. I mean, I think we're still a playoff contender. I don't know how far we get beyond that, but I think those guys who slumped pretty hard in 2020 will have a pretty good 2021 for sure.
Hopefully. We can only hope. That's all we can do as Cubs fans.
That's it. All right, so yeah, that's pretty similar to my story, minus the White Sox beginnings, but I won't fault you that. What about you, Hordle? What are your baseball beginnings?
So I don't actually have a really deep history with baseball. My dad is a diehard O's fan, which is pain in and of itself. And of course, being his son, I decided to pull for the same team, uh, which was a mistake. But what you gonna do? So at this point, I just kind of pull for them for him. Watching Adam Jones and Crush Davis when they were on the team was great, but I haven't been keeping up with it lately.
Yeah, if you've been following because we did Moosey did the adopt a prospect in our Discord. My player got drafted to the Orioles and really tried hard. She tried to carry that team many times, got them to the playoffs, but couldn't do much with it, unfortunately. So the sim doesn't like him either, apparently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's just a curse on any sports team in Maryland that's not a football team.
Interesting. Could be. But yeah, it's so that's the baseball beginnings. And then what kind of since we're talking to you, Hordle, we'll start with you. What kind of brought you from baseball or from what you were doing into the PB? What was that transition?
So I started out in the ISFL because I'm a football fan, and I love playing baseball. So while I don't watch it, I do enjoy the sport, and I just figured uh, if I like it in football, why not do it in baseball as well? And then I decided to make a catcher because Matt Wieters is a fantastic player, and I just kind of felt like catcher was going to be one of those positions where I'll probably be useful no matter how good I am. So
Yeah, I mean a good backstop, even if the offense isn't quite clicking, like the defense is so huge, and the offense was pretty solid. I mean, according to the league, it's average, but on the team, that was some pretty good production. I think you were second in home runs on the team. So I mean, we got some really good offense out of Alex Frank this year, and some of those were really clutch hits. Like there's no, I'm not looking at those advanced stats, but yeah, there's the clutch rating I think was off the charts for Alex Frank. Yeah, I mean, pretty darn good. Like you're competing with a maxed guy, me who had like an insanely outlier season, and an inactive max guy. So yeah, I'd feel pretty good about how you hit. I think I talked about this in the first one, but the OOTP variance, right? There's going to be a bunch of statistical anomalies and ups and downs, and my player like way outperformed his metrics. Um, I mean, this you can see the regression in the playoffs, right? Like if you go between these two stats, that's probably where I should have ended up as a player. So yeah, no, yeah, Alex Frank did his part. Definitely came in for big for the team. So don't discount yourself in any way. But so what's keeping you around? Because I know you mentioned you're a busy guy. You got work. So what's keeping you invested in PB right now?
Mostly I'd feel bad about leaving Dag and Moosey just hung out to dry. Um, Obviously, with the whole pro major leagues, haven't really got to play it there, so that I wasn't too invested in. But yeah, I can't just leave the guys who took a chance on me completely with no option.
I love the maxed loyalty factor. No, I really believe that. I mean, you talk about clubhouses in general, like in baseball, and you talk about people who are leaders, and I really think both Dag and Moosey, they bring something a little different to the table, both of them, but both of them have that kind of leadership mentality, and really yeah, they make you feel invested even when you didn't know you were going to. That's kind of how I described it. Was like I may not have stuck around as long as I have. I may not have gotten excited as much as I have if it wasn't for all the work that I saw them putting into it. And then it was like, well, yeah, I kind of want to rise my game to that level. Like I want to show, to your point, I want to show them that this investment was worth it. But also I want to like prove that I can do something to that effect as well. Like I can at least partially compare to what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking to have a Hall of Fame career. I know that's not going to happen with all of the things I have going on. But if I can come in and, like you were talking about earlier, hit well for the team, knock a few dingers out of the park, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this is a normal practice, but I do see folks occasionally who literally like they are in those stages of actually being called up and then retire, and then they just recreate in the minors because the minors are actually more fun for them than the majors. And obviously, there's going to be player politics involved in that, so that's another minefield. But it's at the end of the day, it's a game, so you've got to do what's fun for you. And yeah, I mean, if you don't feel like you're going to compete at the major league level, but you still like PBE, then maybe that's the path for you. I don't know. Something to think about, anyway. Something to think about. So, what about you, Bauer? What was your path from either from baseball roots or other things to the PBE?
So I randomly downloaded Out of the Park Baseball 20 from Steam because I was just bored one day and wanted to play some baseball games because any video gaming I do is on the Xbox, and Xbox obviously doesn't have the rights to MLB The Show. So Out of the Park Baseball was the next closest thing that I could get to. And I'm fairly certain that I found them on the forums because I was looking for some type of online league to join. And it just looked like something super, super different because all of the other leagues were obviously you GM a team and do all that stuff. So I joined the league and it was weird. I didn't know what to do for the first couple weeks until I actually got drafted in season 12. And ever since then, I've fell in love with it. This takes up so much time out of my week, and I love every second of it. I don't know, not much more to say about that. It was a weird way to find it, but I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah, I think again, it's another thing. I'm kind of calling back a lot here, but it's another thing I talked about was how when I came into this game, what I was looking forward to was creating a player and watching the player play games. And what ended up happening was I started having way more fun in the locker rooms than watching the games. I started, like I'll still go to Twitch and participate, but honestly, like that locker room mentality, that fun with all of my fellow baseball nerds has been like a way bigger draw for me than I really planned on. So I mean, I can totally relate to that. Um, it's just a weird feeling, and who knows if it's the point I'm at in my life, or just the shortened baseball season, or the pandemic. I feel like it's a lot of factors coming together, but it's searching. It fills that void of like, yeah, I just want to hang out with like-minded people, and there's just a bunch of like-minded people chilling in these forums. Like that's how it struck me, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely during I joined before the whole coronavirus thing happened. It was June June or May of 2019. And I mean, I fell in love with it before it, but as soon as everything kind of shut down, this league just got so much more, if that makes any sense. I don't know how to explain it any further than that. I mean, everyone was just so much more invested because there was nothing else to do. So this became such a huge part of my life, and I made so many good friends because, as you know, you can't even really go out and do anything with anyone anymore. And I don't talk to my normal friends in real life through online because that's just not how we do it. So I made so many new friends on here, and yeah, it's definitely made this whole lockdown thing so much easier.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's one of those like at this point I'll still keep in touch with my my current friends even when things
Of course.
kind of go back to normal, but I'm invested. I'm invested in this thing now, so I'm gonna stick around for a while. That's pretty cool. So that, I mean, you talk about being invested, and you talk about getting kind of attached to the league. So that's a good segue into the creation of the Kingpins. So explain the background of that, the process of it, and kind of the evolution of all of that.
So I had actually been a GM for a few teams. I've been kind of a meme because I've jumped through so many teams in such a short amount of time. But I got hired on as the co-GM of the Hepcats in season 13. And then the Wheelers GM at the time, John DeMars, he stepped down. And I was actually selected for that job. So then I became the head GM of the Wheelers. So I've already jumped around to 2 minor league teams. And then after that, there was a falling out with the Utah Railroaders that are now the Boise Raptors. And I stepped up to that job way too early. I was not ready for a Majors GM job at that time. I thought I was, but it was so much going on, and then the team was in such a bad state that I couldn't handle it. So after only one season, I dropped out of that, and then I took a season off from basically all jobs. And then there was talk about a minor league expansion, and I love the minor leagues. I mean, even as a Majors GM now, I still keep up with that. I think it's easily the most important part about this league because it's the reason that new users stay here. If you don't have good minors GMs, you're not going to have any good draftees. So as soon as they announced the expansion, immediately I was like, I got to do this. I know I've already had 2 teams, but I got to do this. And I said jokingly at the time, because I was in the Wheelers war room, to SD Core, I was like, yo, we should get a team together. And he said, all right. And it was a joke at the time. And then it came time to put in applications. And I was like, yo, so we're doing this, right? And he said, yeah, I guess. So we finally got accepted. And obviously, I live near Chicago. I don't live in Chicago. But I really wanted a Chicago sports team in this league. And I know it's been done many times before in other sim leagues and other stuff. The whole gangster mob situation with the Chicago background. But I had always really wanted that kind of a team for myself because I just think it's so badass having like a mobster as your logo. But yeah, we got that, and it was a rough first season because I think we had the worst season ever for our minor league team in the history of the minor leagues. So that wasn't fun. But yeah, I did that for quite a few seasons, and then the co-GM or GM head GM of the Toros decided that he wanted to step down. So Ryan Tyler, and that meant Shadows was going to be the co-GM of the Toros, and then he stepped down, and then Jay Steele messaged me about taking that job. So that's where I am now with the Toros.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the passion, the excitement comes through. That's and yeah, I agree. I love the logo is very intimidating. I love a team that has reds always play well, blacks always play well in baseball, and I love a team that's even before you step up to hit against them or step up to pitch against them, it's already a little bit of nervousness. So that's perfect. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started, but I have to mention it because we're looking at it. I love the color scheme also of the Toros because it's such an anti-baseball color scheme, but it
Yeah.
really it just brings out I was saying it brings out the PBE spirit to me. It's like PBE is baseball, but it's also kind of not baseball.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I had no part in that. The
Right.
team was already made. But yeah, that's I was on Nashville before I was on Cancun, and then I became a free agent because I opted out of my contract. And obviously, I loved Jay Steele. I mean, you see how well we work together, and he was with me on on the Railroaders. So that definitely was part of the reason I joined the team. It's just the look of the team. You can't go wrong with the Vice City colors and the Toro on the front. I mean, I wish we had pink jerseys. I think we're going to look into doing something like that because we really need to take advantage of just being wild. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing just works. But I want to jump back in a little bit to the Kingpins. And Hordle, I want to ask you a question that I doubt you have the answer to, which is what is your take on this whole Crush Fam thing? What was your intro to it? What do you think of it? What ideas do you have about it?
So I don't actually know if you remember, but when I had missed the draft, like I always do, because apparently that's just my thing, and you and now I can't remember his name. The other one were in there, and I remember both of your names being Chris, and I just shouted out Crush because of Crush Davids. And so obviously I'm not going to take credit for it starting, but I'm all for it. I'm currently trying to see if I can change my player name to also be Chris, so this whole team can just be Crush all the way through.
Oh my gosh. We found the origin. Because I mentioned in my first podcast, I was like, I think it was someone in the, like, I couldn't remember which stream it was. I was like, I think it was someone in the stream. I was like, I think it was maybe the minor league showcase game. I couldn't remember. So it is good to know. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Alex Frank, Hordle, is the original Crush brother, the original Crush fam, the origin story. It's right there. That's so fantastic. So thank you. Thank you for that, for giving me the gift of the goofiest meme that I got to just run with. I appreciate you so much. I had no idea. Thank you.
Yeah, so I went back and looked. So Dag had said that he invited the new rookies, and I saw that it was two Chris's, and I just yelled out Crush Power on November 14th.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and it was funny because yeah, the evolution of it was really interesting to me. But yeah, so that was the origin story, and then kind of, what's your take on it now? What do you think of it, and what does it mean to you?
So I haven't been around, as some people might know. The holidays were extremely busy for me, but I love the fact that I say this one thing, come back, and now it's just this like part of the current dynasty that is, or team that is the Kingpins. We're not quite a dynasty yet. We're working on that.
Yeah, I mean, all credit where credit's due, because like I said, I just don't have the greatest memory. That's another inspiration for me doing this podcast, is because this way I can watch videos to remember what happened. So I honestly didn't remember. So that's awesome. All thanks to Hordle for the Crush fam and the evolution of it. So I appreciate that. And what's your take on this whole thing, Bauer? What do you think?
I love it. I think things like this are what really bring a minor league team together, and that's really what the minors is all about. I mean, it's not nearly as competitive as the majors are. It's more of just for a good time. I mean, obviously, you're still going to get hyped about making the playoffs and everything, and once you do make the playoffs, then it's all business. But I think being a part of a minor league team is all about making those bonds and getting your introduction to the league, and things like that are going to make people want to stay in this league.
Yeah, I mean, from a macro perspective, I'm sure player retention is like a huge focus. I know that
Yes.
we're trying to constantly create roles that we think are relatively easy and I say we as in PB in general, but roles that are relatively easy to manage, that aren't huge time sinks, but can still earn your player money, which I think is huge because like not everyone can do a podcast every week, not everyone can write like a 3,000 word article every week, not everyone is good with graphics, so. Yeah, I think player retention. Even in the short time that I've been here, it's clear that everyone is really invested in trying to get people to stick around on PBE.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like every team needs something that brings them together, whether it's, you got a bunch of nicknames for people or the team's competitive or whatever. And I think this is just kind of what has developed in the Kingpins locker room.
And it builds the team culture as well. It makes you proud to be a part of the Kingpins.
Yeah, it just, for me, it didn't feel forced. That was the best part about it, was it happened organically. It seemed really intuitive and easy to run with. A couple of other folks had hinted at things like that in their media posts, talking about how the Kingpins drafted all the Chris's. It was one of the media posts. So yeah, it was easy to kind of run with it, turn it into a thing, and then so from Hordle to me and Chris Jimenez going back and forth, Chris Brick Squared, and then to Stanley Yelnats, to Machine and Runs chirping in and saying, I just wanted to be a part of it. Yeah, it's. I think my goal is overall to be to change PBE to the Crush League, but I don't know. I think it's the whole thing has really kept me invested in, and yeah, hopefully it's keeping other people entertained as well. That's good. So yeah, and then I want to talk about this briefly, very briefly, because it just happened today. We had the Major League Draft, and I wanted to start with Bauer and see, what was your take on the draft? What round did you end up going in the majors? Where did you end up, and what was kind of your whole experience with that?
So where I ended up in my majors draft?
Yeah.
So I was in the season 12 draft. I was taken in the 4th round, 25th overall, I believe. Makes me kind of happy that many teams passed on me and that I ended up being pretty much an absolute steal. There's definitely something really, really cool about like a sim league draft, because you have all those people watching and you're just sitting there waiting for your name to be called. And at the time it was a little bit disheartening to be taken that low, but I also understood it because I didn't really do much leading up until then. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I there's nothing really more to say on that.
Yeah, no, I think it was interesting this go around. So when you guys did your draft, did they also have like players come on and talk at all, or is that a newer thing?
That's definitely a newer thing. It was still at that point like just streaming a spreadsheet, and they were copying and pasting names. They didn't have this whole fancy presentation. So it's definitely improved a lot.
Yeah, I like the production value is huge to me, and I enjoyed listening to the players and getting their takes on it. It was fun, for me to talk in there. And then I felt kind of bad because, to your point, when you get drafted lower, it's not like, you get that mentality of like, man, I thought I was doing pretty good in this league and now I don't know. And then of course you'll turn it around. You'll say to yourself, well, now I just have to prove I'm wrong. But in the moment, it's kind of tough, and then to pull those people on the stream, and I feel like every person who went in like the second plus round was just like, well, I thought I was gonna go higher, and you're like, no,
Yeah.
sadness. Oh no, what do we do? I just
And
felt, yeah.
it sucks because, like I said on the stream today, there's so many good players that you wish you could have, and there's only you have to pick and choose who you want, because you could say, hey, maybe this dude will fall later in like the second round or something, but I don't know. And there's so many just rash decisions that you have to make, and that's what leads to people falling. Is it's like, well, this team might take them, but maybe they'll fall. What if we take them now? And it's just a mess.
Yeah, and I don't know. I love Twitch in general, so I love the fact that it gets streamed definitely put me in a player's shoes, and I love those moments. So overall, it's a huge win, and I think just like anything else within PBE, people will look at that. People will have their own ideas, their own takes on it, and head office and all the folks will adjust. But yeah, overall, I thought the experience was pretty solid, and I like that a lot of the kind of community leaders are stepping into those. So in addition to having the sim team in there, we've got other folks who kind of come in and give their insight. I love that. I talk about this a lot, but the volunteers in this league are the ones who keep it going. And so many of you guys just are just like, oh yeah, I'll help with that. And you're not even getting the fake money, right? You're not getting the in-game money. You're just like, oh, that'll be, not only will that be fun for me, but that'll be good for the league. So you just step into it. It's like,
no, we definitely get paid for that.
Well, in some cases, not in every case though, right? I mean, do you guys?
No, there's a lot of situations where people will step up to do things that it's like, how do you have that much time? And like, you must really love the league if you're doing things like, I mean, just being a GM, like, sure, you get a good amount of money, but it takes up so much of your time.
Yeah, I'm eternally thankful to all the folks who can put in that extra time for me because I do have a little bit of spare time and I do what I can with that. But taking up a league job, it's like a part-time job. It's and then again, the majors, the GMs, rather, even in the minors, I'm sure that seems like it's a full-time job, honestly. So,
Yeah.
so kudos to you guys for doing that. That's crazy.
Yeah, the league would not be sustainable if we didn't have this many amazing people stepping up.
Yeah, and then Hordle, you were mentioning, so you missed the drafts. Did you go back and watch the VODs, or did you just kind of get the results later?
So for the minor league draft, I had actually forgot that I signed up after the first week, and so I was doing stuff for ISFL, and then I got a message from Dag who was like, "Hey, welcome to the team," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm already on a team." And then I realized he was talking about PBE, so I didn't go and watch that one, but I did when I got drafted to the Scorpions. Sorry, person and Evok for that disappointment, and later traded. I did watch when I got drafted because I was sure it was going to be later. I mean, I had been inactive for like half the season because of life. So, but yeah, and now I've missed another draft, and I'm sure I'm just going to miss all of them throughout my time being here. I've just kind of accepted it at this point.
What was your overall pick, or what round did you end up going in?
I want to say it was late in the fifth, but I don't remember.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's everyone. I think again, this is a game. Find the fun way to play it, and if it's not hype for you to sit there and again, being active in these things means a bunch of media posts or a bunch of posts of some sort, content. You have to add to the league in order to be kind of like a threat or a weighty prospect, right? So if that stuff isn't fun for you, don't do it. That's what I say. Like that, just don't forget it's a game, because if you're playing and you're not having fun, then you're not going to help anyone. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not that I don't want to be active. It's more of I just get so wrapped up in other things and I forget, which sounds horrible, but I mean it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, you said you do two other sim leagues as well.
Yeah, so I'm in ISFL, uh, which was my first sim league. I decided to join three sim leagues in 1 year for some reason. But yeah, I do ISFL, which I don't have any special like job or anything there. I'm just, updating O line, best line. And then in the SHL, I scout for the minor team that picked me up after the draft. So I'm more wrapped up in the minor leagues of the hockey league that's been around for I think 10 or so years now, that I just forget about my other two sim leagues.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it sounds like it's all fun, and it's just you've got the one thing that you're a little bit more passionate about. So yeah, you're gonna put in more time to that. So that totally makes sense. So as far as like highlight moments, um, things that really excite you or things that really drive you. Bauer, I was just curious, as like a minor league GM for the Kingpins, what was kind of like a hype moment or something that really stood out for you?
Oh boy, that's that's tough to think about because unfortunately we didn't have too many like good seasons. I don't know if I really have a moment for you there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like on the field. It could be something that happened in the locker room or something else.
Uh, oh boy. Um, I can't even think of anything right now. I mean, just the general creation of the team, I guess, because it was the first time I made something of my own, and then it was amazing to see so many people latch onto it, and in the league really liked the branding in general and everything. So I guess that would be it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, for me, obviously the whole Crush Fam concept really worked out well. Like everything really came together. But it's always been like I said, the locker room's been more of a draw for me, and I've really enjoyed the adopt a prospect thing. I've really enjoyed that. I mean, it's basically the same concept as PBE. You just put together a spreadsheet, it gets thrown into a sim, but it's a live sim, so you get to see how your fake player compares to major league players, and we just sim a bunch of seasons in a row. So for me, that's probably my favorite thing. I mean, it's honest. Again, it's hard to, like to your point. It's hard to pinpoint one thing that's the best because, like I said, all those interactions are really good, and all of the people we talk to are awesome. But as far for me, as far as one moment that's really stood out, I didn't think that would be that fun to me, and it's also been like a pleasant surprise. So that's cool. So what about you, Hordle? I know again that you've kind of jumped in and out a little bit, but what's kind of been that hype moment for you?
Well, obviously the whole Crush fam thing is great. And I do love the fact that since we are a like mobster based team, Crush fam has so many meanings to it. But I would say last season my player wasn't that good. I mean, what do you expect from a rookie with a archetype that might not be the strongest? But seeing the improvement from last season to this with my RBIs, my homers, it's been great. Like there's more noticeable improvement in PBE than there is in like when you're playing O line and ISFL because you get two stats there. Here I've got 12 different stats to look at.
Yeah, and like I said, some of those home runs. I mean, everyone was kind of calling you out a bunch of times in Discord for some of these games because, like I said, some of those home runs or some of those hits came in like really big moments in tie ball games or late in games, and if I don't know, for me that like I said, that clutch factor always adds a little bit more hype to it and kind of pulls me back into my player. Sometimes I almost forget about my player. So those little moments where my player comes through and does something big, I feel like that pulls me back into the league a little bit too.
Yeah, it's great when like your team's tied or down by whatever, and you can just blast it out of the park. And you're away from Discord, you come back, and there's like 13 pings just saying, home run, blah blah blah, calling you out for it. It's always a great feeling, even if you're not really that active in the community at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this game was essentially this against the Swifties was essentially the clinching game. This was the one that determined that we would officially be in the playoffs. And who's your player of the game? It's Alex Frank. He's your man. So I mean, yeah, that's 3 for 5. Got yourself a home run. I mean, it was a pretty big game, and you came up big in that moment. So yeah, I think kudos to the locker room and kudos to Dag and Moosey, especially for promoting that hype during the streams, and everyone in the Twitch channel is always goes crazy in those moments. So yeah, I think all of that kind of combines to create, like I said, that magic, that stuff that kind of that indescribable stuff that just kind of pulls you back into this fantasy realm. I love it. All right. But yeah, like I said, it's hard to pinpoint stuff. I get that. It's hard to talk about just one moment that was great when there's like it's all great. It's everything's good. So
Can I actually talk about my favorite moment as a player?
I was
Not as.
just going to ask Bauer, please,
Oh, you were?
please regale us. Yes, sir.
I feel bad now.
No, you're fine.
I have two favorite moments as a player. So the first one is when I was actually with the Nashville Stars in season 17. Uh, it was the last game of the season, and we were looking to clinch a playoff spot, and we were actually on stream for this. And I don't know how much we were down by, but in either the ninth inning or it might have been extra innings, I hit a walk-off grand slam to send us in the playoffs. And that was a pretty amazing moment, especially because it was my player that did it. And it felt amazing. And then the second part was when the Toros won the whole World Series and everything. We were all in voice chat and freaking out during all that. So that was my two favorite moments as a player.
Yeah, it seems like Anthony Bauer's had a pretty okay career.
Yeah, I'd say he's all right.
Like, yeah, just a few games that first year up. Okay, who cares? Not really doing much. First official full season. Yeah, pretty solid. Going up against players that are probably significantly higher stats wise, than him. That's pretty exciting. And then just pretty much dominant. Pretty much, you have your first full season and then you just crush the whole way. It's great.
Yeah, definitely a little shaky to start off there, but I've always there's a running joke around me because I've constantly said that defense doesn't matter because I've been first base or DH my entire career because I just like smacking the ball out of the park. So yeah, I definitely had a couple down seasons, but especially the last couple seasons I've been absolutely tearing the ball out of the park.
Let's look at those career fielding stats at first.
Don't look at that. We don't need to see that.
Look at that range factor. Look at that. Holy cow. Pretty reliable, pretty solid.
Yeah, sure.
Don't worry about the zone rating. Everything else is pretty good.
Just look at the home runs. That's all I need.
Right.
Shooting for 300 on the career.
Even if you make a picture, peep the home runs. That's it.
Yep.
That's great. So yeah, that again that rough little bit of a start, but not. Not really. Like your first full season was still like just a slightly below average first season. Not bad at all. I'd say. Again, we'd have to look at the numbers, but comparing you to other rookies that year, I bet you did just fine.
I came up around, I want to say 500, 600 TPE, so I was definitely going up against like powerhouses that were just tearing me apart. So to have a 0.1 WAR rating, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, positive WAR. That's what we're about.
Yeah, it's positive, not by much.
So how many seasons did you spend in the minors before they called you up?
Well, I spent one full season with the Dillos, and I won Gold Glove and Silver Slugger at first base there. And then I got called up by Utah the following season. That's why I have the 17 games up there. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, you know what? I'm trash. I'm going back down because I was hitting 161. It's like I can't take this anymore. I suck too much because I was around 300 TPE going against the powerhouses of the league.
So this was literally your second season of PBE period.
Yes. So that's when I told the GM, I was like, dude, you got to send me back down. I can't do this. Like, I didn't think I was going to be selfish about my player and my stats and everything, but I was like, it's been 17 games and I've done nothing. I need to go back down. So we'll say 1 in like 5/6 of a minor season.
Listen, I think we can all agree more time in the minors the better.
Yes.
Just keep me down as long as you possibly can until you can only put like an empty glove in the field and then put me in because okay, you got a dead person on the field, I'll take care of it. But otherwise, yeah, like let me rake, let me blow up the minors. But I had a pretty slow start. This was the preseason stuff. I always forget where spring training starts.
I'm a very heavy advocate for don't let people pressure you to come up to the majors. Unless you really don't care, it's not going to be fun if you're a low TPE. There's no beating around that bush. You're gonna suck. So if you want to, if you don't want to be selfish and you just want to help out the team, it's whatever. But at the end of the day, it's a sim league. It's here for your enjoyment. So you're gonna do a lot better in the minors for a couple seasons.
And I kind of wished there was double A because this is my 17th game. I'm hitting 197. I didn't feel great about that. Now, yeah, did I have a little bit of pop? Sure, but yeah, I didn't feel good about hitting sub 200. And yeah, I had that same thought of like, did I build something? Like, what am I doing
What
wrong?
am I doing wrong?
How can I fix it? How can I tinker this? And the answer is, well, you really can't. Just keep earning, keep posting, keep doing what you can. But yeah, I'm excited. The main reason I'm excited about the results of the draft, because I mentioned this on stream, I wasn't too concerned about which team drafted me. I know I'm going to have fun no matter what, and everyone, like I said, everyone I talk to is awesome. So like even the people I don't know, I'm sure I'll get to know them and we'll have fun. But talking to Person Man, he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll probably leave you down for at least 2 seasons," and I was like,
Yes.
"Yeah." Like that's the best news. Like so getting going to a team where you know people, I was like, okay, cool. This is easier. I had some good conversations with all three of those guys over there, and was excited about it. But then yeah, Person Man saying that was like the final feel good moment. So yeah, I'll get to play with the Kingpins at least for 2 more seasons. And I don't know. This is something that is relatively new to me. Contract negotiation. Contract negotiation is new to me. So I know the basics. I know the rules of this is minimum salary, blah blah blah. Hordle, did you partake in any negotiations for any of this stuff yet?
Yeah. Person Man's obviously asked me what I wanted, and I told him to give me the minimum because at the time I was planning on, doing media and stuff. Obviously that didn't work, but hey, what you gonna do?
Yeah, I think it's important. So, because one thing I was talking about was okay, I'm pretty active in the community. I'm gonna keep doing these posts. I don't really need a ton of money, but my thought process is save it for the folks who are like semi-actives, right? So save it for the folks who still want to keep playing, who will come in and do their posts every week, but don't really want to do a second thing. So like I think in your shoes, you should be trying to negotiate a higher contract to say like, hey, I want to play for you guys, but at the same time I'm going to be not as active. So if you want me to stay competitive, you should pay me more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've always had the mindset of help the team first, especially with money. Like, there's other ways to earn money. I mean, obviously, we're doing it right now. You do an hour long podcast, you get 4 million. Like, it's not that hard. So, minimum contracts. I do the same thing in both SHL and ISFL. I don't see the money. I'm sorry, I don't see the reason in trying to grab as much money on a contract. Now, trade clauses and all that. That's where I like to have fun. I like to do really silly clauses like not being traded if such and such person is still on this team, yada yada, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't even thought about the clauses and everything. Yeah, I kind of had that same mindset of, like I said, the minimum because of my circumstances. But and then the other thing is, can you front load that initial contract? Because I know with the re-signs and the future contracts, you can assess like you can have all of your money up front and then just do like 1 million or whatever in the remaining years. Can you do that with the initial contract or no?
I don't think you can. I think rookie deals are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think your rookie season is a set number, and then from there you kind of can adjust it how you want.
Okay.
You can definitely offer more if people want it, but I don't think you can do like the 8-year deal and front load the hell out of it.
Yeah, I think they're limited to 4 year max. So I think
Yeah.
they can pay you that minimum for 4 years max, and then they have to renegotiate based on your TPE.
Yeah, so I mean, in 4 years, you're not going to get a crazy good deal by front loading. That's more screwing yourself over.
Yeah, I was thinking for a player who's a relative inactive, that might be a good strategy to try to like boost your character back up and try to catch up in TPE a little bit. Get yourself enough money for the Hall of Fame equipment, and then try to be more active at that point. Because you're going to have a huge windfall. You're going to be able to buy the max stuff, and then you're going to have to find other ways to buy stuff because you're not going to have a contract.
Yeah. So as far as I'm aware, I'm currently with the Crabs, the Providence Crabs. So hopefully I can figure something out by then to front load my bank a bit more so I can get the equipment. And by that point, they're like, he's active enough. We'll sign him to a continuation. If I play in the minors for another, I think it'll be 3 seasons at this point, then, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think. I don't know the history of the league, but just looking at like some of the recent structures, some of the recent contracts, it seems like one of the reasons why Death Valley has been able to stay so competitive is they have a lot of folks taking minimums. A lot of folks will take, and they have the fun things in their contracts too, but it's a lot of, to your guys' point, it's like that team mentality, right? Like, I'm going to make the team better. We're going to get all of the best players in because we're all going to hit that. But at the same time, some of those other teams, I think those players, it's fun for them, right? Like, to be able to say, like, hey, my player's making the most money out of their class or whatever, or out of their position. I think it seems like that's a point of pride for some people, maybe.
Yeah, every sim league or every league, hobby, whatever, that involves like role playing with characters and whatnot, you've always got the people who are like, I'm the best. I'm the best in this way, with whether it be money or I hit the most dingers, I strike the most people out, whatever it is. You've got those people who are competitive in that degree, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I definitely think it can hurt teams in the long run when you have people like that.
Yeah, again, this is all a game. Make sure the game's fun for you, and as long as it's not at my expense, I'm okay with it, pretty much. I think that's where the GMs come into play, right? So it's up to a GM to decide, hey, can we give this player their fun? Can we give them that max contract, or and still stay competitive, or do we need to figure something else out? So it's not, the onus isn't just on the player to try to help the team. It's really more on the GM to manage that expectation and say, okay, we can pay you that, but just keep in mind that might hurt our playoff chances, or might hurt our World Series runs. The same thing with people who chase awards, right? Nothing wrong with that. If that's fun for you, go for it. If you're excited about awards, awesome. Like that's fun. It's going to keep you active, and that mentality will make sure that your fun helps me out. More players means I have more fun too, so that's great. But just don't lose sight of the other stuff too.
See, that was always my thing. I would always ask for minimums on my contract. I don't think I've ever taken a contract that's over my minimums. But my thing was always, you can sign me to a cheaper deal. That's fine. I want players to be around me to bring us to that next level. But I'm going to build my player however the heck I want. Like, I'm going to crush dingers, and you're not going to stop me. So I obviously could have built more in a way to help the team out, but it's like, you're already getting me for a cheap contract. Put the players around me to do the stuff that I can't, and I'm going to sit over here and hit dingers.
I like that. No, that's another smart way to think. It's like a power play too. So it's something you could say, hey, if you're going to pay me minimum, I'm gonna take advantage of that. I like that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
player.
I'll make the money on my own. I'll
Right.
take care of equipment and all that. But put the players around me. But I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I think. Part of the reason why I went towards the outfield was OOTP is super generous to outfielders as far as being good at their job. If you just dump in a bunch of range, you'll be great. So, especially in center field, like, you just run around and you catch everything. So, I'm kind of the same mindset. I want to crush dingers, and also I can be a pretty good fielder because all I have to do is put in a bunch of outfield range. Versus an infield position, especially like second base or shortstop, if you don't put a bunch into range, at least some into error, at least some into arm, at least some into double play, your player is going to struggle. And OOTP is super mean. If you have an infielder who has no arm, man, you're going to give up so many infield singles. You'll get to that ball every time, and then your player's just going to hold on to it. It's tough to watch.
Yeah, that will definitely hurt your team if you're at one of those important positions like shortstop, second base, center field. If you're not pulling your weight on defense, you're going to bring down the team a load.
Yeah, and I kind of like. It's interesting to me how like infield arm only really factors in for third base, and outfield arm, even though it anecdotally has a lot of effect, it doesn't. I don't know. Real time simulations, I don't see a ton of change when I go like if I double my outfield arm and then run a bunch of sims and then keep it as it is and run a bunch of sims. Maybe I have like 2 more putouts as opposed to like the 2 I have.
I hate that because in the MLB, that's like the biggest thing you look for in an outfielder is can they throw somebody out from home all the way from the back of left field or something like that. And that's what I originally thought it was going to be like, but then I saw how little it actually helps you, and it's kind of depressing because I did want to be an outfielder at one point, just gunning people from the back of the outfield, but it doesn't really happen.
Well, and part of it too is people being so people don't try to steal, and people are reasonably cautious on the base paths. So even the players who are like not great at base, like everyone has like average base running or better. It seems like most of the teams have that setting up a couple of ticks, but nobody has it like maxed out. And really, you're only going to nab people from the outfield if you've got a bunch of aggressive base runners, like hyper aggressive. So it's part of it is it's not necessary. I mean, part of it, yes, is OOTP rules, but it also seems like it's the meta of PBE, like in general, maybe.
Yeah. Don't send the runner if it's not going to be a sure thing.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you though. Like the Jason Hayward trade or contract, like
Yes.
didn't make any sense except for the fact that how fun is it to watch him every fly ball that comes his way with less than 2 outs. He gets, you see the feet moving, he's looking, he's getting ready, and the cannon just goes off. It doesn't matter what the score is, it doesn't matter what the game situation is. Like that dude puts in 100% effort, and how fun is that to watch?
Every time this runner on third base, he gets that twinkle in his eye. Like, please hit it to me. I want to absolutely gun it to home plate and throw them out.
I love it. And again, his offense notwithstanding. I mean, because his offense is not amazing. I feel like that contract, maybe a little bit higher than I would have liked it, but boy, it's fun to watch. So I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Right on. But yeah, I think I don't know. Ultimately, like I said, I'm still in the middle of that, but I mentioned, I was like, yeah, pay me the minimum. We'll go 4 years. We'll have that mutual 4th year option. And I tried to negotiate some fun Cubs things into our Discord. So that's why I think he reached out to you, Bao, and said, hey, do you have the W flag? So that was part of my contract. I don't know why he already did it. That's not how contract negotiations work, but that's fine.
Oh, well, now you got to hold out.
Right. And then he gave me a little Rizzo. I'm not sure if you're in that Discord. I don't have the fancy Nitro. But yeah, I showed a screen cap of Rizzo hitting one of his home runs in the DVS Discord. So yeah, check that out. It's pretty great.
I will check it out. Hold up. Where is it?
Wait, are you Miss Bowen here?
I might be.
That's great. Yeah, it's next to it's just that. Yeah, that's it. Just the little dude swinging away. And again, you can't really tell it's him, but it's called Rizzo, so who cares? You know it's him.
My favorite thing in baseball is when Rizzo goes down on the knee and still cranks a dinger.
Oh, that would have been a better one. You're right.
You should not
no.
put that in your contract.
Dang it. That is great. Yeah, it's crazy how, like, Rizzo's just, like, one of the best stories in baseball. Everything he overcame and everything he does for the community is so fantastic. And the plays that he makes, how everything, he's always interacting with fans. And he's always, there's so many clips of him like fake stealing a hot dog or fake stealing some peanuts from some fan over there. Oh, he's just fun to watch, man. I love
He might
players
not
like
be
that.
the best player of all time or anything, but he's definitely in that top 5 list of best people in the major leagues.
I was gonna say I'll have to go to a normal sim to pull that stuff off. It's like if I go to like let me do that real quick. That's fun.
I
Got a
started
bunch of
liking him
saves.
just because he shares my same first name. So it's
Right.
like, hey, there's another Anthony on the Cubs. All right.
We're best friends.
Yeah. And then obviously he turned into an absolute gem for the Cubs. And he's the only one that's still left from the 2012 team that lost, 100 something games?
Yeah, I mean he was that initial rebuild, right? He was the okay, we got this new guy in town. He's gonna come in, help us take care of business. This is step one. We love this kid. We love what he does.
Well, and I
we
don't
know
think
he's gonna have
anyone
an impact.
expected him to be what he is.
I think they expected a solid first baseman who might end up being an off the bench player. I think that's kind of what they expected, was like he might be everyday first base, or we might find someone a little bit better, and he'll spend some time at third or something. Like maybe he's a utility infielder for us. Who knows? And that's it. Like he'll play first and third, and that's it. And yeah, now he's just like the once and future first baseman.
Yeah, now he's a first baseman and a closer.
That 2020 was a down year. Like, oh man. Yeah, this sim is based on my stats. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think in this sim I did the Kyle Schwarber deal before they announced it, just because I was like, get rid of 7 million before 2020.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Guys like this are fun. I love guys like this. And then, you look at, like I said, like Hayward's stats, meh. Not as exciting. Not as exciting, but again, you love to see the GGs.
The offense is bad, but the defense does somewhat make up for it.
Just, with the barbs.
The barbs.
Before the the tough injury. Insane, and then just never quite the same after that. But still solid.
Not.
Still solid, to your point. And I think, it's thanks to, things that happened to him and other players, now we've got all these young guys coming up with that face guard and help keep them a little bit more safe, so. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It's a shame that something like that has to happen, though. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. Their face isn't protected.
Yeah, it's kind of like all the, the concussion stuff in football, too, right? It's like it's crazy that we just didn't know this stuff until guys were like in their 40s and 50s and starting to have like really severe mental and physical traumas because of
and some of them would just die out of the blue. Like there's no like major symptoms or anything. They would just go. They would just end up in the hospital and die, and there's no symptoms. And they're finally like, wait a minute. They played football for how long and were leading with their head for how long? And that was like the common denominator.
Well, you got people who used to wear no buckets whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then they would switch to like leather caps. And it was like, that's not going to help. But they were still letting people, it's like they got grandfathered in. And I'm just like, I wasn't watching at the time, but you go back and look at that and you're like, why are you letting these people choose to not wear a helmet? Like, who cares if it makes it so they don't score? They score one less point a season. Like, safety should be your number one priority. But, who cares when you're rolling in $600 million a year?
Yeah, I think every leather worker will tell you that leather is designed to absorb blunt force. I don't think so.
Yeah, totally.
Like if someone's trying to cut you, it might help a little bit. But
stick some leather in between it. It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like the sad thing is this change only happened like 30 so years ago. It's
Yeah.
not even that far away, and it's like you think about it as a new fan to a sport. You're like, oh yeah, they used to do all this stuff, and then you're like, oh yeah, that was the '80s, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. And then with baseball too, now there's the discussion of making the pitchers wear that protective headgear too. I mean, I don't know how far that's going to go, but because we haven't seen anything like super devastating. We've seen some close calls and we've seen scary moments, so the talk is happening. But I feel like it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be until someone, we get a career-ending injury or a high-profile player getting hit that no changes are going to be made.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's gonna take a ball going at 100 miles an hour back at their head and hitting them to change anything.
I was just gonna say they have that new like pitcher's hat that has like the padding on it, and that was just recently introduced a couple seasons ago because they finally realized, hey, maybe they're not able to defend their face as well when a pitch is coming right back at them at 110 miles an hour.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, hopefully everyone stays healthy, happy, safe. We get to see all our favorite players return, and we lose
God,
a bunch of
yes,
cool
I need
players.
Major League Baseball.
What's that?
I need Major League Baseball back.
Yeah, I think we need a full season. I think that's
We do.
Yeah.
60 games was not nearly enough. I mean, even if they can only string out like 120 games or something like that, I need it back.
That's me, but with hockey. I'm like
I
January
miss hockey
13th, the
too.
season starts back up. I don't care if it's 50 games or 82. I'm ready for it.
I love hockey too, so I definitely miss it.
Right on. All right, gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up the podcast for this week. Any closing parting thoughts? We'll start with Bauer.
Parting thoughts. Go Toros. We're gonna win the season 23 championship, if you didn't know. Also, the Kingpins are gonna win the season 23 championship, so going 2-0 here.
You know, I don't have a way to refute that. I believe both of those statements have a very strong possibility. I think the Toros had a really good season and had some really strong games there. It just feels like things didn't quite swing their way.
And we have the same core returning, so we will be back.
And the Kingpins, I mean, we lost a couple of max players, but we've got a lot of active folks right now, or at least semi-active folks right now, who are dumping in that TPE, and so we've got a lot of max TPE players. I think 7 of our positions should be maxed by the time the season starts or close to it. I think we're all over 300. So
Don't forget about the draft.
Yeah,
New ones.
Exactly, and I don't know. I hope we can find some pitching because a lot of this pitching is inactive or leaving us. So I think that's what we're hoping for in the draft. But yeah, I go Kingpins, and also go Toro. Sure,
Yes.
I'm not technically a Death Valley Scorpion until they bring me up. I'll root for whoever up until then, and then I kind of don't have a choice at that point. I think we might have to put that in the contract. I don't know. All right. What about you, Hordle? Any closing thoughts or parting words?
I mean, I'm in the same boat with the Kingpins. I won't comment on the Toros, but I do have to say that all of the Crush fam is going to hit for the home run record this season. Calling it now. One of us is making it. I don't know who it'll be, but one of us is making it.
Oh man, maybe even a team record. Who knows? I mean, I think looking at these numbers, yeah, we've got some folks who should have been hitting more than me and didn't. So yeah, I think we'll be hitting a lot of dingers next season. I'm looking forward to it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks to both of you for being here, and I'll see you on the field.